Good evening, and welcome to Unexplained Reality, the podcast about the weird, strange, and unexplained, but real. We are delighted to have you with us. Please grab your favorite beverage, sit back, and enjoy.
Good evening and welcome to Unexplained Reality. I'm one of your hosts, Brian Quinn, and with me is my son,
Harrison Quinn, that's me.
So it's been a while, right, buddy?
Yeah, it's been a little bit. It's been a hot minute.
It's been a hot minute. That's right. So as usual, if you haven't listened to us before, we talk about the unexplained, ghost sightings, Bigfoot encounters. Sky's the limit. Anything weird, strange, and unusual in this world. There's plenty of it. And anyways, if you have an encounter or a sighting or experience you would like to reach out and share with us, you can reach us at unexplained.reality@yahoo.com. You can hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, we're on Facebook, and you can go to our website and leave us a message there at unexplainedreality.com. So what's been going on, buddy?
Just hanging out, having a good time.
That's right. So, we have had a lot of stuff going on, and we always say we're going to try to make more episodes and put more content out, but something always gets in the way. So, anyways, it is what it is. And we heard today Kobe Bryant passed away this morning.
And his 13-year-old daughter.
Yeah,
as
well.
well.
In a helicopter crash. That's crazy. It's really sad. So, that's not good. It's never good when somebody passes, and it's that much worse when it's unexpected and horrific like that. So, I don't really have. I don't think we're going to go any news stuff today. We're going to go talk about one thing that actually happened a while back that was posted, and we just haven't had an episode out to talk about it. So we're going to do it right now. And this is audio recorded out of Ontario, I believe, in the forest. And I believe I'm not sure the exact story behind it, but I think a family was out in the woods. I don't know if they were hunting or target practicing or whatever, and they recorded this audio, and it's pretty crazy. I don't know that I could have sat there and recorded it. I probably could have, but I would have probably been like 1 foot in the truck or something. So anyways, here we go. pretty spooky. What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, imagine. I mean, sound carries and all. Somebody starts a car up that's loud, you can hear it from a mile a mile or two away. But I mean, that I really didn't sound like it was that far away. It sounded like it was close, and it was maybe just carrying in all directions. Like it wasn't like super far to where it was almost like echoing, but it was like far enough away to where it wasn't like right in front of you. So,
yeah, I mean, I think in the woods you got trees, and especially that environment is pretty far out. I don't think there's a whole lot of anything around there. So yeah, that sounds carrying, but yeah, it did sound like it was too close for me. I mean, I think I would have been really concerned about that, especially with a small kid running around.
Yeah.
But take Sasquatch or Bigfoot out of it. Can you think of anything that would make that kind of a noise?
I've seen some buzz online pretty recently about skinwalkers, about people going in parks at night, and I can't remember what state it is, but they're like, this is like, it's something screaming, it's like crazy, like some just like off the wall, like you don't even think it's like a real video, just something like that. If you heard, you just, you get out of Dodge, you just start running, if nothing else, just
right,
bone chilling, crazy. And people are in the comments are tweeting about it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's just a skinwalkers." Like, it's okay. Like it's whatever.
Right.
Like, oh, like it's a coyotes, just
that's
making
cool.
noise.
It's just a skinwalker.
Yeah, just a skinwalkers. It's like, just people are kind of nonchalant about it. I don't know if it's like a.
They obviously don't know what a skinwalker is.
Yeah,
The story behind.
I don't know if it's just like a local thing, some animal, and their parents are like, "Oh, that's a skinwalker" or something, or if it's like people who truly are Native American or whatnot and have grown up with the legends of skinwalkers and such. But
yeah, I guess if it's in your culture and you're used to it, maybe just okay, just keep the kids in the house or whatever. I don't know.
Don't make it mad. Whatever.
Yeah,
stay away.
Well, there was another video. It was out a while back. I think maybe a year or two ago. I should have queued that up. Actually, let me see if I can find that real quick. We'll talk about that for a minute. Okay, this was another one. This one, the last one we listened to reminded me of this one. And this was from 2017, I believe, is when it was posted. And this is also from Canada.
Whoa. I know what that is. I don't know. It's scary. Everyone else is hearing it too.
So, I mean, the first one to me sounded like sorrowful. Sorrowful?
Yeah.
Is that how you say it? I don't know.
Sorrowful.
Probably butchered that, but it sounded, like a mourning kind of wail. That sounded like I don't want to be anywhere near whatever that is.
Yeah. Well, the second one to me almost sounded like just the way it was like, I want to say intonating, but that's not the right word. The way it was like
It's sustained.
God, I forgot what it's called. It's a like a musical or like an audio term, but just the way the pitch was changing, it almost reminded me of like an elk call. You know how when they do their
Like
whatever,
a bugle,
like,
yeah,
like that. Almost sounded like maybe it hit a bear trap or something. Because I mean Canadian woods, but that sounded really like
that sounded pissed.
Yeah,
to me.
that
There was
really
not
sound
like, hey, I'm over here, I want to mate. This was
like
more
hell,
like,
yeah.
I'm ready to kill something.
Yeah,
I'm really pissed off. I stubbed my toe. I stepped on Lego. Yeah,
tripped over a rug.
right. Yeah, that's either one of those would be terrifying. I think even the first one is because you don't know what makes that. It's not a bear. It's not a wolf.
Mm-mm.
It's not a coyote.
No.
It had to be something with substantial
The only thing I can think of is like maybe a bear, but bears are more like guttural than that. They're more like
yeah, they're more like
roaring almost.
They're kind of a stupid growl or
Yeah.
roar. This to me sounds like something. I don't even know how you. The way I put it is it almost sounds like something with intelligence. I don't know if that makes sense, but to me it's more deliberate, not like I'm just a bear walking through the woods grumbling and pissed off.
Yeah.
This is more like directional. Like it's there's a purpose, there's a reason for the sound it's making in both of those instances. But anyways, I thought they were fascinating. I was just waiting for us, to have another episode to talk about those. I guess we could have posted something just ranting about them like we are now, but I figured we'd just roll this in the beginning of this episode. So, but anyways, fascinating, pretty cool recordings. And if you don't have anything else to add, buddy, we'll go ahead and bring on our guest tonight. We're actually gonna have a guest tonight. This young man's from Kentucky. His name's Benjamin, and he had. I guess the best way we could describe it is almost like a Mothman type sighting. There were some differences than what your typical people that have supposedly seen a Mothman. There's some things missing from it.
Yeah, it wasn't an interaction per se. It was more of a sighting,
Yeah,
like
it
it was
was
kind of doing its
quick.
own thing, and he happened to see it.
Yeah, he just happened to come up on it, and it was quick, but he did capture a lot of detail from that quick interaction, or not interaction, but that quick visual sighting there. It's pretty fascinating. So we'll just roll right into that and let him tell his story.
Well, it happened. I want to say it was probably about 2.5 months ago now. I'd have to look and see the exact date, but it was just a couple of days after I'd made a post on Reddit to the r/cryptozoology subreddit. And I was working that night at a GameStop in one of the towns that is near where I go to college, and classes had been canceled for the next couple days. So I decided that I was going to go home and visit with my girlfriend and with my family. It was pretty late when I was coming back because I had accepted to work a couple extra hours, but didn't see it as too big of an issue because I'd driven on the road in between the town where my campus was on and my hometown. So it wasn't like stormy or anything. There was a little bit of clouds overhead, but nothing too bad. But it was dark. And I came out of the town, which is called Corbin, Kentucky, and through London, Kentucky. And about 15 miles outside of London, I come up to where an exit is that can go off into a little, I wouldn't even call it necessarily a subdivision because there's only like 2 or 3 small houses on it. But I'm going down this road, and it just narrowed down to a 2-lane road. And I'm listening to the radio, just the local London radio, and was about to make a call to my girlfriend and let her know that I was on my way when I'm looking straight forward at a small little. It was more like an SUV kind of vehicle in front of me. It was dark, so I couldn't tell who or how many people were in it. And I follow them for a couple miles, and I wasn't in a bit too big of a hurry, and they didn't seem to be either. So we were both just kind of going around the speed limit, and I wasn't in any hurry to pass them or anything. So as I'm coming down this road behind them, we're near in a town called Manchester, Kentucky, which is the last stop for about 40 miles until we hit another town. And this thing, which I described in my post as having a small humanoid body with extended hands that came to points at each fingers, and its body like almost like covered by really large bat-like wings, bounded out of the um, tree line to my right, which let me note this 2-lane road is covered by forests on both sides, and moved so fast that it looked like at one second it was at the tree line, another second it had essentially attached itself to the back right corner of this vehicle with its wings so big that they draped over the top of the vehicle and looked like they almost dragged down over the road, and then it bounded off of the vehicle again and into the tree line on the left side. It happened so quick that neither I nor the people in front of me seemingly really knew what had happened exactly. They pulled off the road, seemingly probably, by what I can think, thinking that it was something they might have hit or something might have hit them. But at this point, panic had set in on me, so I didn't think to stop. In fact, I more just kind of laid on my gas and just bellowed on. And it was then that I called my girlfriend and told her that I'd seen something, described to her what I'd seen, and she was just as perplexed as I am, or was, I guess, in present tense. And we were kind of just sitting there on call, trying to figure out what it could have been. We, of course, came up with it could have been a big owl, could have been a crane, could have been something that was closer to me and just looked bigger. And I'll note now that this was about 150 to 200, I'd say, miles to the southeast of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, where the Mothman was first spotted. And at first I wasn't thinking like, oh yeah, that was definitely the Mothman. That's what I saw. I was more trying to rationalize it. And on the road I was on, it's wooded. The entirety of the road for about 100 miles is just surrounded by woods, except for one town that you hit 40 miles after Manchester. And the due to the hills and the forest, the cell service is really spotty. So I was able to talk to my girlfriend for about 5 or 10 minutes until the cell service cuts out. And then I didn't go into this great detail on the Reddit post, but the cell service cuts out, and I knew it was coming, so I just kind of turned the radio back up and was trying not to focus on it when like this really sudden, very heavy sense of just like dread, kind of washed over me. And I wouldn't go so far as to say it was anything like, like, oh, I'm gonna die or anything like that. More of just like, it almost felt like for the entirety of the way that I drove, it was kind of like, what if something is gonna bound out at any second? And my mind just kind of kept going back to the, what if something's here? What if that wasn't something natural? What if we really did just see something? What if it's around me right now? And really didn't stop until I'd made it to Hazard, which is the town outside, about 40 miles out of Manchester. and it was pretty ingrained in my mind, and still is, the image of it. I only got to see it for a second, but it was so pronounced and prominent that I was able to get a very clear image of it, or at least of its shape. I couldn't see any very minute details like hair or like fingernail-like qualities or anything like that, because I was quite a few feet away and it was very dark. But one thing I will note that I didn't see was, creatures like the Mothman are always described to have, like a glow in their eyes. I did not see any form of glow or anything like that. So that was one thing I wanted to put an emphasis on in that Reddit post, trying to see maybe if somebody could, convince me that it was just a big bat or an owl or something like that. And after the time that I'd posted the Reddit post, because that evening nothing else happened. I made it into town safely and was kind of just a little bit just like whoa, did that actually happen? Kind of attitude. But after the Reddit post, I began getting messages and things like that from people that were saying that they had very, very, very similar encounters dating all the way back to like the 90s. Like how they'd seen what they described as Bigfoot with wings on the Tennessee border, which was about 20 miles south of where I was, and how they'd had encounters with Bigfoot or the Mothman itself on that same parkway, or that Corbin itself had creatures like that up a very particular holler, and stuff like that. So I started digging into it a little bit more and did find quite a few accounts of creatures fitting the description pretty similarly to what I saw on that stretch of highway and in London and in Corbin. Some describing it as the Mothman, some describing it as just an oddity that they saw, if that's the right choice of words. And I started to contact a couple people around that I knew, trying to see if they had heard anything or knew of the people that had been in the vehicle that was in front of me or anything like that. And by everything I can come to, I can't find the people that were in front of me or anyone that knows them or heard of what happened. So for the past 2 months, more than anything, I've just been kind of thinking on it. Kind of every once in a while, I'll sit down and like draw out a sketch of what I saw for somebody that asks, and more than anything, just kind of hit a dead end on finding anybody else that had witnessed it the same night I did, and kind of just talking to people off and on that had seen it in like the previous years.
Right. Now, what time of night was this? Was it late afternoon or evening?
It was probably around, I'm going to give a rough estimate and say around 10 o'clock.
Okay, at night.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, you said you'd gotten off work.
Yeah.
What road was this on?
Let me look up the exact. I want to say it's called the Hal Rogers Parkway, but I can tell you what road it's called exactly. Have it pulled up on the map here. It was no, it was the Daniel Boone Parkway. I'm sorry.
And this is kind of southeastern Kentucky.
Yes.
Okay. Is that part of the Daniel Boone? Isn't there a Daniel Boone National Forest or something right there in that location? Or very
yes.
There.
I have it marked on my map on my phone where exactly I saw it, and it was I can tell you in 1 second. It was exactly 4 miles into the Daniel Boone National Forest coming in from London.
Okay. And I know they've had a number of, there's been a number of cryptid sightings in that national forest. Now, you said it had a humanoid shape, except it had wings that covered its. Right.
Yeah.
How big did you estimate this to be?
The wings, the body, or both?
Let's start with the body. How in height? How big do you think it stood?
If it was standing on its hind legs, I would say it probably stood around 4'6" or 5 feet, anywhere between there.
Okay, so that's a kind of a far stretch to be, some kind of known bird, I would think, in that area.
Yeah, because it was big. Like, that was the first thing I thought was, like, was that a bird, and what bird could be that
right,
big?
right. So it bounded on top of this car, and it landed on the car and draped its wings like over the top of the car. You said down the side.
Yeah, like its legs, like its upper torso and stuff was like on the top of the car, and its legs, the left leg was positioned like over onto the rear, like the rear view window, and the right leg was positioned over onto the side of the vehicle.
Okay. And so, and with those wings, you said they drape down where they're almost touching the road. So, I mean, that's pretty, even if it's a small SUV, that's pretty big wings.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah, they were very large.
so when it left that car, did it just leap back onto the side of the road and run off, or did it fly off?
Honestly, I couldn't even really tell, because the foliage is so dense on both sides, and it moves so fast that for a split second I saw it go off the left side of the vehicle, and then it was like it was just gone.
Okay. Yeah, 10 o'clock at night in that area will probably be pretty dark, I would imagine.
Yeah, there's almost no light pollution that you can see.
Right. And so these other incidents or encounters that you've researched and talked to people about, were they in a similar area or just similar type encounters?
They are all within like a similar area. Like, the ones that I talked to from people in Corbin was about, I'd say it would probably be about 20 miles or so south of me. And the ones that I talked to that were actually on that road were essentially all within the same general area.
Okay. And when did they describe, like the creature being very similar in size and?
Yeah. I spoke, if I'm not mistaken, I believe I spoke to 3 people, 2 of them going so far as to say that what I saw was exactly what they saw as well, and one saying it was similar, and that to them it looks in body like Bigfoot, but with wings.
Right. Yeah, I've heard stories about that. What they call it, the bat squatch.
Yeah.
So that I've heard of sightings like that, which is just kind of disturbing.
Yeah.
But also we did an episode where we talked about. We've never done one on the Mothman per se, but we did one on all these sightings that they're seeing in Chicago, humanoids, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
And this is kind of sounds like it could be a similar thing. Now the encounter you had, would you describe this as a humanoid type body?
Yes, it was pretty similar. Its head was a little bit more. I can't even really describe it. Its head was almost kind of flat, kind of small, flat, almost kind of thing. Like, it almost just kind of like sat upon its upper body,
So
almost.
Like not much of a neck.
Yeah, not much of a neck at all.
And the head, was it like in comparison to the rest of the body? Was it on? You said it was on the smaller side.
Yeah, it was. It looked like it would it looked like it would fit, but when I looked at it straight on, it almost kind of had that sense of like unnaturalness to its size. And like I couldn't exactly pinpoint in that second what was wrong with it. But
Right.
looking back on it, it was, in comparison to the rest of its body, it was very small.
Right. I mean, in a lot of the Mothman encounters, the descriptions and like sketches after the fact, they describe the Mothman as having kind of like it's not like a typical head. It's like more of a
Like an extension of its body almost.
yeah, and it just kind of sits down into the shoulders.
Yeah.
I think I was going to ask you something else. And I think that's a lot of times the case in the sightings they're seeing up in Chicago, which I think some of them are some of the sightings that we covered in our episode were some of the creatures were larger, body structure, but for this one, did you feel like the body was bulky? Like, if you look at like a Sasquatch, a lot of times, I mean, not always, but a lot of the cases, people say they're always pretty big as far as muscular wise, but some are more like athletic and some are more like barrel chested and just like bulky. So how would you compare this creature? Just, was it more of a lean, or was it bulky, or how would you describe the body of it?
By what I could tell, it was pretty like lean, athletic, almost kind of in the fact that like it wasn't necessarily frail looking, but it definitely wasn't like a huge like brute like creature either.
Right. Okay. And you, I know you probably didn't. This was a quick sighting. It happened very fast. But do you recall anything about the feet?
The feet were actually, by what I could tell, kind of similar to the hands in that they were kind of pointed. I got the best. That's why I can't really describe the head super well, because I got the best look I got was of its body, and its hands and its feet were both kind of long, ended in points, and really, honestly, kind of didn't fit the creature itself, because its arms and legs, by what I could tell, looked so averagely like humanoid, whereas its hands and feet were kind of large.
Right. And you said so both the feet and the hand both come down came down to a point. You said kind of from what you could see, but you couldn't tell if they were like fur covered or feathered or some other kind of.
By what I could get, it all looked very dark, but what I could best tell was most likely fur-like. By what I could tell, it looked. I'll tell you this: I did not definitively see any feathers on it.
Right. Now, in a lot of, I hate to keep trying to like bring this back and bring up Bigfoot or Sasquatch encounters, but a lot of people claim that when they see Bigfoot or Sasquatch, that they describe them like if it's some people say they're brown or like a some other kind of color, but usually when they see them in black, they say they're like blacker than black, like it's almost like light absorbing.
Yeah, and that's how this was. Like,
So
I had my headlights on, and it looked like it wasn't even like shining on it. Like it was like everything around us, of course, was dark because the headlights couldn't, penetrate anything past just, the point that they were aiming at. But naturally, you'd think that it would have, some reflection off of it, because I wasn't very far behind the vehicle, but it was almost like just an extension of the darkness around the vehicles.
okay, That's very interesting. Harrison, you have any questions?
I mean, not really. I think you covered everything that was prominent.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, I think it's such a fascinating encounter. I'm just trying to rack my mind about anything else.
Yeah. Anything else you want to ask? I'm open. I'm more than happy to answer.
So you said this is 4 miles into the Daniel Boone National Forest.
Yeah.
So, and this is not obviously any kind of residential area. It's all forest.
No, not that. Like I said, I think around us there's an exit that you can take that will lead out to three or four what I think are houses, maybe like just buildings. But other than that, yeah, the closest you can get to any form of residence or anything is either about 10 miles one way to London or 15 or so miles the other way to Manchester.
And so this car was in front of you that the creature landed on, and there was nobody behind you. I guess it was just you two, those two cars, your car and their car. In the other people that you discussed your sighting with, who also had similar sightings, what was their time frame for those? You said someone went back to the 90s.
Yeah, like I think the earliest one I got was like 1998, and then I spoke to somebody with one in 2003, one in like 2009, and then one within like the past 4 years.
Interesting. So it's pretty spread out for same type sighting, but
yeah. And then, of course, and some of them, I talked to a couple others that didn't give exact dates or anything, and just said that they seen something similar in a pretty close location.
Right. Now, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say that I also talked to a couple of people that said that they claimed to see something very similar about, I don't know, let's say about 300 miles or so, probably to the north in Indiana. Pretty much almost directly north, but by a long shot. So that was interesting as well.
Yeah. Well, and that's interesting too, because if you have sightings in Chicago, you had the whole Mothman thing in Point Pleasant, which I know was years ago.
Yeah.
Your sighting, the other sightings in that location. I mean, and then the ones you're talking about in Indiana. I mean, it's pretty interesting little area there because I mean, it's all relatively in the same. I mean, it's the same part of the country basically.
Yeah. And it also
south, but
another interesting thing that I've gathered in talking to these people is that other than the ones in like Point Pleasant and things like that, they almost kind of go in a direct line. Like you can. I sat there and did it on a map. You can map where it was seen in Indiana directly to where I and all these other people have seen it, and then directly up to Chicago, and it forms a straight line without crossing any open water or anything like that.
It's pretty wild. I wonder what makes you wonder why that correlation would be there. What would be the attraction? I mean, it's not like you would be following a mountain range because you don't have anything that travels in that direction. I wouldn't think a river coming down that way.
It's essentially, and it's very different terrain too, because part of it's mountains, part of it's kind of flat, some of it's is more, has more lakes and stuff like that. So very different terrain within that stretch of land.
Yeah, nothing. There's no commonality there.
No.
So this stretch of, I guess, now you were going to visit your girlfriend. Is that where in your hometown, or do
Yeah,
you travel that road quite
yeah,
often going home?
yeah.
Or
I'd say since I'm a freshman in college, and since moving in August to college, I'd say I've driven it mm, 15 times probably. I'd say now,
right.
so I'm pretty common now with the pretty knowledgeable about the road and stuff and where what is.
Right. Do you is the majority of the time when you go down that road at night, or
I actually usually drive it either in the mornings or in the afternoon. That was one of the rare times that I did drive it late at night.
okay? And another question I just thought about that I meant to ask you: what do you think the weight of this creature was? Some people are pretty good, are hunters and stuff, and they're good at estimating weights.
Honestly, I would say based off like its build and its stature, probably the body itself, I would say it would probably be around I don't know, 140 to 150 ish, and the wings I'd probably say would be, I don't know, 20 pounds each or so. So I'd say around anywhere between 180 and 200 pounds.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a fascinating encounter. I mean, that's I've heard of similar encounters I've read about, but I've never actually talked to anybody who actually had this type of encounter.
Well, I appreciate you guys reaching out and letting me call and talk about it.
So that was Benjamin's encounter, which was I found it pretty fascinating. I actually uh, saw it on Reddit and contacted him and asked him if he'd be willing to talk to us. And we've been trying to go back and forth for a couple months to try to line up our schedules. And he was actually pretty free to get together, but it was us on our side. We had stuff going on. We gonna have to reschedule and cancel. But anyways, but after we talked to him, I had a couple other questions, which instead of trying to get him back on the phone, I just figured I would send him a message and ask him. But we were talking about in the interview, we were talking about the wings and the body structure of what he saw, and I meant to ask him. I didn't think about it when we were interviewing him, but later on, I thought about it, and I was like. So I wrote him a message and asked him if the wings and the arms were they connected or like separate appendages, and he claimed that they were separate. The arms and the wings were separate from each other, which right there that discounts any possibility that this is some kind of known
Bird or something like that.
Yeah, flying creature that is known, because I don't know of any.
Yeah, I don't think there's any creature that I know of that has 4 leg-like appendages as well as a set of wings.
Wings, yeah, that's fascinating. So I mean, to me, that takes away the possibility that this is a misinterpretation or what's the word I'm looking for?
Like a misidentification.
Yeah, misinterpretation. I could come up with that, but I can't come up with misidentification. So yeah, I mean, I think that what he saw was definitely something that was unexplained, and it would have been great if he would have been able to track down the people who it actually landed on their car and they pulled over. But who knows what they actually saw? They probably thought they got hit. A deer ran in the side of their car, so maybe they didn't even see what it was. Another fascinating part would have been, if he would have saw what happened to it after it left that car. I mean, it kind of went off to the left and disappeared. If it would have taken flight and flown away, I think that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
But regardless, it's a fascinating encounter, and we appreciate him coming on and chatting with us. I did have a couple other questions for him, like that area, the Daniel Boone National Forest, I know has quite a history of Bigfoot sightings and encounters or Sasquatch encounters. So I just wrote him and asked him, what other kind of cryptids has he heard about being encountered in that area? And they primarily were, Bigfoot encounters or Sasquatch encounters, and there's a lot of ghost stories or ghost encounters in that area, which is understandable. I'm sure that the area is part of the Appalachians, and it's it's been pioneers and stuff have been in there for hundreds of years, so I'm sure there's a lot of residual energy and stuff in a lot of areas in there. I also asked him, if he knew if he'd ever had any more encounters or encounters with any other, cryptids or ghosts or anything, which he had not, but he has some family members who have some stories. So maybe if we're lucky, we'll get some of them lined up to come on the show and talk to us. But anyways, we really appreciate him coming on, and it was a great encounter, and a lot of stuff he retained from that encounter, a lot of detail, which you wouldn't expect from something that happens so quickly. I don't know that I could retain that much information from, having something flash in front of me like that 10 o'clock at night on a dark, dark road in the middle of the forest. So. But anyways, you have anything you want to add, buddy?
No, I think you covered most of it.
Ready to wrap this up?
Yeah.
All right. So if you have an encounter or an experience that you would like to share with us, you can hit us at unexplained.reality@yahoo.com. You can catch us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or go to unexplainedreality.com and drop us a message that way. We'd love to talk to you and possibly get you on the show and have a chat with us. I think that's about it.
Yeah.
You guys have a good week, and hopefully, with any luck, we'll be back next week with another show.
Absolutely.
Or 3 months from now.
There's no telling which.
That's right. See ya.
Liquor, 110 proof, pure grain alcohol. Barkeep, bring me a whiskey. Don't keep me waiting, come on down here and hit me. Give me a 6C water back. How about a Jim Beam or a Jack? A Boilermaker with a beer chaser. Anything to get my mind over her in a shot glass. glass.